if not 2015, then 2016.
Right. I mean, that's really a toss-up. I mean, really, I think if you're a Cubs fan, you'll go with Baez. If you're a Sox fan, you'll go with Sanchez / Johnson.
Shortstop, some people might tell you it's a toss-up, but I would much rather have Castro.
I think I would.
Alexi.
Castro's younger, has more potential, is on a better contract. I mean, not that contract has nothing to do with it.
Starlin Castro's going to be batting in the middle of that lineup where, Alexi Ramirez is batting either second or eighth.
Or sixth.
Yeah. He could bat sixth. That's true.
I mean, I'd go with Castro. He's got a lot more potential, and Castro's best years are ahead of him, where Alexi's best years already happened, and I doubt he'll do as good as he did last year.
Yeah, it'll be tough for a guy that's getting past 30 to put up 280 batting average
with 18 home runs again.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Especially when he's not like that kind of home run. I think maybe 12 to 15 is more reasonable for Alexi, where Castro's probably a 10 to 15. And now third base
is tough. What I'm going to do, there's uncertainties with both of them.
See, what I'm going to do, we'll just assume that Chris Bryant's going to be the third base at some point this year.
Right.
Shortly after the season starts.
It's going to be
I think we should
him against Connor Gillespie, I guess.
So. Wow, that's a hard decision.
That's a very hard decision. Connor is good offensively. He's a good hitter, but
not the kind of power production you want from third. You don't want
not the power, and I don't know if he necessarily has the defense.
No.
Chris Bryant is the number one prospect, so you pretty much have to go with him.
Right, I'd go with Chris Bryant too. And another thing, Gillespie's numbers last year, he batted 280 with 7 home runs at third base. That's not what you want. Now, if you throw that at second base, that's pretty good production.
It's better. It's a lot better at second than it is at third. I know that.
Now, the outfield, you got Melky Cabrera versus Chris Coughlin. So really, in our eyes,
although it could be a lot of other people besides Chris Coughlin, but I'm assuming it
would be Coughlin and a DeNorfia platoon. Except, so really, we gave the Cubs a clean sweep of the infield. Second base is kind of just a toss-up.
Yeah, it is.
Where Sox fans would probably go with Alexi over Castro.
Yes.
Although Castro is a lot younger. I mean, a lot of those positions. Other than third base and catcher, are really the only obvious positions.
Yeah.
That's really, and that's where Rizzo. So probably looks like all around is better than Abreu because of the defense.
Yeah, I'm thinking so.
And the leadership in the clubhouse too.
Yeah, he is the leader of that clubhouse. Where the leader of the Sox clubhouse was Paul Konerko. Now, you're not exactly sure who it's going to be. Right.
It's probably gonna have to be a guy like John Danks.
It could be John Danks. Sale's been there a while. It could be Alexi Ramirez too. It's just.
I don't know if he can speak English though.
By now, I think he can speak it well enough where he can be a leader.
Okay, because usually in interviews he's usually got
Adam Eaton
translator.
seems like a leader type.
Yeah.
But of course he's only been here for a year, so.
Yeah, left field. I think I'd go with Melky Cabrera over the Coughlin.
I would go with Melky. I don't really like him because of his steroid use, but he's not doing that now, assuming. So he's a better player than Chris Coughlin.
Unless Coughlin goes back to his rookie year when he batted 320.
When he was rookie of the year in 2007 or something. Yeah, but I would have to say Melky Cabrera.
Yeah, and then center field you got Adam Eaton versus Dexter Fowler. Now
it's very interesting.
This is the first time I thought about that one because before when I was thinking about it, it was versus Alcantara.
Right, and that I think Adam Eaton wins that. But now with Dexter Fowler there, that really is another toss-up. I think Adam Eaton's younger than him.
And hits for a higher average.
For a higher average, but
Fowler hits for more power and has a better batter's eye. And both of them have trouble staying healthy.
Yeah,
Adam Eaton
that's true.
That was just a funny one. Running into a wall on a home run.
That sort of is a toss-up. But I think I'm going to go with Adam Eaton, and I'm going to go with him just because he's been here. He's been with his organization longer. Plus, Fowler, he gets injured an awful lot. I know Adam Eaton does too, but Fowler hasn't really been that productive in a few years.
Right, and I think Eaton plays better defense. I think I'll go with Adam Eaton as well. We've been being a little generous towards the Cubs. Now, right field, this is a good one. Soler versus Avisel Garcia. It's two young players that are
players that we really haven't seen enough of to really have an opinion because Avisel got hurt way early in the season.
Both on the verge of becoming stars, and I think I'm going to go with Soler because he's had more potential than Avisil has in his career. And I read Avisil doesn't have a very good batter's eye, and his defense is iffy.
Right. I'm going to go with Soler as well, just because I watched him more. I mean, what he did, he has tremendous power. He
has a cannon of an arm.
I mean, he came right up and he was batting for something. I mean, he was doing really well.
Yeah, they brought him up and threw him in the cleanup spot.
Yeah, he had a home run his first game. I think that was in St. Louis, right?
In Cincinnati, off of Matt Latos.
I always get confused when it's a red stadium.
And that following weekend, though, that was like during the week on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I think it was a Tuesday. That weekend they played St. Louis, and Soler had that game when he hit the two home runs over well over 400 feet.
Yeah, exactly. So,
he's got more.
I'm going to go with Soler.
I'm going to go with Soler. This is really more based on potential, and I mean, I'm going to go with Soler. I mean, and Joe Maddon's been raving about Soler, like he's never seen a guy quite like him before.
Right, and that's very exciting because Joe Maddon's managed a lot of good players. He was a manager with the 0-2 Angels when they won the World Series, and then
that was Mike Scioscia.
But he was an assistant manager.
Oh, assistant.
Yeah. And then he managed guys like Evan Longoria and Ben Zobrist and a lot of good players.
Right. I don't think
on Tampa Bay.
If you think about it, he's never had an outfielder like Soler. The closest he probably had was Carl Crawford, and he wasn't like a home run hitter.
Right. And Crawford's not necessarily that good of a player. So
not anymore. He was when he was with Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Yeah, he was, and then he sort of traveled up to Boston, then
signed a huge contract,
the Dodgers, and
Well, and the thing is, his game was based on speed, and those guys, when you give a big contract to a guy who's based on speed, those contracts never work out.
Yeah, it's tough to just be good at speed and be
late in your career,
a good player like that. Yep.
And so so now we go to the bullpen, and the Sox made some nice upgrades, getting David Robertson. Zach Duke, I thought that was a big contract for Zach Duke, 3 years, $15 million.
Sure, but I know that they did need help with it.
They got rid of Belisario.
Yeah, so that's already an improvement.
I think I'd still take the Cubs. I mean, they only added to a strong bullpen because they added Jason Mott, who's a low risk, high reward, who's coming in year 2 or 3 back from Tommy John surgery, which is when pitchers get back in the swing of things. They added that to Neil Ramirez, Pedro Strop, and Hector Rondon.
Yeah.
Plus Justin Grimm. Now, the only problem with the Cubs have right now is that lefty reliever position, which looks like it'll be Felix Doubront, Travis Wood, or Sayushi Wada.
Yeah, how about...
or this Drake Britton, who they claimed off of waivers from Boston, guy. Who sounds like he could be really good.
Yeah, he's got good potential. The Sox do have a proven closer now, which helps them a lot because, if they're in those close ball games, you can pretty much just give the ball to Robertson and you feel pretty safe that you're going to win the game or at least hold the game to where it is. But I think overall the Cubs bullpen is a little bit stronger.
I think I'd give that to the Cubs. Let's see. They've got the Sox have the main guys for the Sox would probably say Robertson,
Zach Duke, and
Petrichka.
Jake Petrichka. There's
then the number 4 guy probably at the either go Webb or
we don't know when Nate Jones is coming back either. So
he's out for the season.
He's out for the season. Oh, okay.
He had Tommy
That's
John.
Right. He got hurt right when he was about to come back, right?
Yeah, he tore his UCL and needed Tommy John surgery.
Oh my God, I feel bad for that guy.
And he was good. He was really good.
He was good. He was supposed to be their closer last year, and that didn't work out. Injuries again, but. Yeah,
I know they traded for Dan Jennings, except he's like a Randy
They don't have
Cho.
Felipe Paulino anymore, do
No, they got rid of him. Man, was he bad.
He was like their 5th man to start the season. He had like one good outing.
He had no quality starts.
And then he stopped.
He had no quality starts.
Yeah, he stopped being really... he stopped... I don't know. He was just awful.
Yeah, that was a really bad sign. Except this Dan Jennings, he had a good ERA last year, except he's a guy that can only face lefties, so he's like a 1 batter a game kind of guy, or 2 batters a game.
Yeah.
And then the Cubs, you already have more proven guys. Their big 3. It's probably Rondon, Strop, and Ramirez.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So, to give that to the Cubs, that's a little more of a toss-up. I think the Cubs really do have the edge, though, in the bullpen. Now, the rotation's an interesting question because at the top of the rotation, the White Sox probably have it better, except all around throughout the entire rotation, it's probably the Cubs.
Throughout the entire rotation,
the depth.
Yeah, I would say, because you do have some guys that have played well that can fit into those fourth and fifth spots. Whereas for the Sox, it's Danks and Noesi. Like that's
right.
it.
They don't even have guys fighting for it. Where the Cubs' number 5 spot is going to either Wood, Wada, Dubront,
Jacob Turner, possibly.
Or Jacob Turner. I'm not even including Edwin Jackson because he has no business winning that job.
I don't think they're going to let him do that. He'll be a long relief guy, which he might do really well as a long relief guy.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't need him to pitch very often.
No.
So, I mean, we could go up and down the rotation. As your ace, Lester or Sale?
I'd probably
take Sale. I mean, Lester has won a ring or 2 rings, except Chris Sale is on the verge of being a Cy Young winner. Lester has never been as good as Sale.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to go with Sale as well.
Number 2, Samardzija versus Arrieta. That's a tough one because I want to take Arrieta, except the problem is Arrieta's more of an unknown. You don't know how good he's going to be this year, and then Samardzija, you don't know how he'll be going into a launching pad.
Samardzija was not very good when he went to Oakland.
Right, and that was in a big stadium. He's facing the DH, and he's in a launching pad now.
Yeah, I'm going to take Arrieta.
I think I am too. I think Arrieta is the real deal. In all honesty,
yeah,
I think he's the real
there's
deal.
no way he's going to digress so much from 2014 to 2015.
Right.
He'll be just as good. I hope. At least that's the hope.
Or maybe his ERA will jump up a little bit to maybe around 3.
But he'll definitely get more wins. And
more because he'll pitch in more games. It's not really a fluke when you take a no-hitter into the 7th inning 3 times.
Right. You obviously have good stuff. And
you have really good stuff.
You're almost unhittable. He threw a couple one-hitters, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He had the 13 strikeout game against the Reds.
Mm-hmm.
That was the day after we went when Rizzo hit the walk-off homer, too.
Yes, it was.
And I remember before the game, Rizzo was out of the lineup, and I texted you. I was like, man, I'm glad we were there yesterday to see Rizzo's walk-off homer. And then that game, there was almost a perfect game.
Yeah.
Although the walk-off homer was really nice. And then, of course,
nice.
The famous Ryan Hoppe is the game over.
And then number 3, you have Quintana against
Hamill.
Against Hamill.
Which I'd probably take Quintana.
I would take him, too, just because Hamill... he's a good, serviceable pitcher. He's like a typical number 3 guy. But,
he is literally a typical number 3 guy.
But I think Quintana's a little better.
Right.
But then when you get to 4 and 5, it's the Cubs.
See, the thing with the number...
Because you got Hendricks and then probably Wood. So.
Yeah, and the thing is with the number 3, Quintana... I don't know if he's as good enough to be a number 2. I think he's about in between a 2 and a 3 for stuff-wise. Yeah. And the thing with Arrieta, he said he developed his slider and his cutter. He was using his cutter a lot. He developed a cutter, and he was using that a lot. So, he developed his pitches. So, I'm excited to see Arrieta build off of that. And then, obviously, number 4 and 5. The candidates for the Cubs that don't make the rotation, I'd take over Danks and Noesi.
Yeah.
Other than that's not named Edwin Jackson.
Yeah, anyone that's not named Edwin Jackson.
So that was so in the rotation we gave the Sox the numbers 1 and 3 guys over the Cubs, and all in all I think I'd take the Cubs the rotation because
the Cubs have 2, 4, and 5.
Right. Yeah.
And beyond.
Yeah. And the depth too.
Yeah.
So I do feel like we've maybe been a little more homer friendly to the Cubs, except a lot of them were so close that you really don't know. Some Sox fans are going to take Abreu and Alexi. I doubt any of them will take Tyler Flowers over Miguel Montero.
No, you can't. And
I'm pretty sure all Sox...
Unless you're stupid.
Yeah.
Unless
Rick
you're
Hahn.
just being dumb, yeah.
Yeah, Rick Hahn. I'm pretty sure that almost all Sox fans would take Samardzija over Arrieta.
Right.
Which is understandable, except they didn't watch Arrieta, and it wasn't like statistically like Arrieta was helped out by a batting average and balls in play.
Right. Every time Arrieta was on the mound, you felt like the Cubs were winning
right.
Like it felt different. It felt like the Cubs were in contention for something, even though they weren't.
Right. And like you'd watch him, it wasn't like he was striking guys out. It wasn't like there's a lot of like pop-up soft grounders where a lot of pitchers where they have good use because the batting average on balls in play is really low and they don't strike guys out. Arrieta was striking guys out and he wasn't giving up hits and he wasn't giving up like hard hit balls or anything.
Right.
Really, I mean, every start really since he, other than his first 3 or 4 starts